Good evening, brave souls. Tonight we gather to share tales that haunt the darkest corners of our minds. Halloween is a night when masks hide not just faces, but true intentions and dark secrets. These are not just stories, they are memories from those who lived to tell them, and whispers from those who didn't. So settle in, but keep one eye over your shoulder. For tonight, the shadows tell stories, and each one is darker than the last. Welcome to Halloween Horrors. Story 1. The Halloween Stalker. Halloween night. I remember that eerie excitement, like I was tasting freedom for the first time. My best friend Steve and I had waited years to go trick-or-treating alone, free from the careful watch of our parents. He was a vampire, all dramatic with a plastic cape, and I was a skeleton, face painted white with dark hollows for eyes. Streets were alive with kids dressed as monsters, superheroes, and creatures from another world. Houses glowed with porch lights and jack-o'-lantern grins. We walked with candy bags in hand, laughing as we compared our hauls from each house. Our laughter faded as we turned onto a different street, one less crowded and a bit too quiet. The houses seemed dimmer, with fewer decorations, and suddenly, that sense of freedom became a little too real. I could feel the stillness creep over us, like we had left behind the safety of the crowds and stepped into something unknown. I glanced back, and that's when I noticed him. A man on a bike, moving slowly in our direction, his eyes locked on us. Steve saw him too, and we shared an uneasy glance. The man on the bike lunged, grabbing Steve by the arm. A scream ripped from his throat, and I joined in, yelling as loud as I could for help. Lights turned on in a nearby house, and I'll never forget the shout of an angry neighbor charging out onto his porch, eyes blazing, shouting at the man. The two figures quickly disappeared into the darkness, their plan foiled. It turned out they were part of a gang targeting kids, but thanks to that neighbor, we got away. That Halloween night stayed with me. The masks and costumes no longer felt fun. They were reminders that monsters didn't just belong in ghost stories. Sometimes they rode bikes down quiet streets, following kids into the dark. When I was 16, I started working at an old movie theater on the Oregon coast, the kind of place that had been there since the 50s. Its faded marquee and vintage seats held a strange allure, a place where history and dust met in the corners. But beneath the charm, there was something unsettling. They said the theater was haunted, that a woman in white roamed the aisles, waiting for a show that would never end. I told myself it was just a story. But as weeks went by, I started noticing strange things. A cold draft in empty rooms, the feeling that I was being watched. I'd turn, expecting someone there, only to find the empty seats staring back at me. It was around midnight when I was previewing a horror movie, if you can believe it, making sure everything was ready for the next day. There's something about watching a scary movie alone in a dark theater that amplifies every fear you've ever had. The hum of the projector, the grainy shadows cast on the screen. It felt like someone was watching me from behind the empty seats. Then I felt it, a chill, a crawling sensation that raised the hair on my arms. I laughed it off, chalking it up to the movie and my imagination. But the laugh died in my throat when I saw her. She was standing in the aisle, bathed in shadows. A woman in a white dress, her face barely visible, smiling. Not a friendly smile, but something chilling and strange, as though she knew a secret she'd never tell. I blinked, and she was gone. But that feeling lingered, the icy dread, the sensation that I was not alone. They said 3 ghosts haunted that theater, but I only saw her that one time. After that night, every time I stepped into that theater, I felt her presence, like she was waiting for me to slip back into the shadows where she could find me. Halloween night again, this time with friends at an old house owned by our friend Mark. It was one of those abandoned places you only dared to enter in groups, especially on Halloween. There were cracks in the walls, a dusty chandelier, and the kind of creaks that made you wonder if you were truly alone. But the thrill of the night kept us from caring. We laughed, we drank, and then someone suggested hide and seek in the dark. Jake, the daredevil of the group, was first to volunteer. "You'll never find me," he laughed, disappearing into the shadows as we began counting down. We all scattered, stumbling through rooms that felt like they hadn't seen a human in years. It started out fun, but the longer Jake stayed hidden, the more unsettling it became. I'd call his name, but there was only silence. A strange, echoing silence that felt wrong. Suddenly, a voice called out, faint and frightened, "I'm done! This isn't funny anymore!" It was Jake, but something in his voice sent a chill through me. We searched, voices echoing through the trees, but it was like he had vanished. The days turned into weeks, and Jake was officially missing. Rumors spread of a ghostly figure seen wandering the woods, someone calling for help. And sometimes, late at night, I dream of him. In the dream, he's still out there, running, calling my name, lost in the shadows. So there you have it. Stories from the dark side of Halloween. A night where masks hide not just faces, but secrets, and shadows hold more than meets the eye. As you celebrate this Halloween, remember, not every monster is fake, and some stories are more than just tales. Who knows? Maybe one of these could happen to you. If you enjoyed these tales of horror, subscribe for more chilling stories. And tonight, as you turn off the lights, don't forget to look over your shoulder, for the shadows are never empty.